Hello and welcome to a new series that I'm starting where I'm going to be playing and commentating certain heroes in Heroes of the Storm, mostly heroes that are difficult to play with and to play against, such as the Vikings and Abathur and Murky, perhaps. So the first hero that I'm going to take a look at, or the first three heroes that I'm going to take a look at this time, are the Lost Vikings. Now, the Lost Vikings, their class is a specialist. They're specialists. And what they do best is that they soak XP. They soak XP in order for your team to gain a level advantage early on. This is what they do the best. So say you have a map with 3 lanes. Say, for example, Garden of Terror. What do you do with the Vikings? Well, you split them up into all 3 lanes. And there are instances where you can split them up into 2 lanes in a map such as that. And that is when you have somebody soaking, say, bot, for example, bottom lane, and then you can put the Vikings to go top lane and mid lane and soak XP right there. And if you have a map such as Battlefield of Eternity, where you are presented with 2 lanes only, then you have to soak 1 lane, most likely. You will be able to soak 1 lane, unless people aren't really focusing on soaking, then you can soak 2 lanes to gather XP and get that XP advantage, or that sweet level advantage. And when people go on to focus on objectives or camps or whatever, you can still soak. You can soak, and soak the lanes while everybody does whatever they want to do. That's the best thing about the Vikings. They can soak multiple lanes. They're not made for team fighting until you reach level 10, but I'll talk about that a little bit later on. By the way, you have to excuse me. I'm a little bit under the weather, but I was really excited to make this video, so decided to record myself and do this, even though I'm a bit sick. But whatever, that doesn't matter. I also have to explain to you that this is recorded. This is pre-recorded. The video is pre-recorded, and I've decided to comment on the video because it's just simpler that way. When you play the Vikings, it's really hard to talk and play them, so it's much easier to make commentary after you've recorded a video of your gameplay. So let's go ahead and jump into the game. Alright, so the first talent I'm going to choose here is Spy Games, because it makes the third Viking, the tiny one, Eric, it makes him invisible for 3 seconds if he doesn't move. Similar to the way that Zeratul and Nova become invisible, or well, they become cloaked, rather, or stealthed. And because this map only has 2 lanes, I can only soak 2 lanes. So 2 Vikings go together and 1 go all alone. And the reason why I've chosen to get Balog to go bottom lane all alone is because he's a mix between Olaf and Eric. Olaf is the fat one and Eric is the short one. Now, Olaf is a tank. He takes a lot of damage, and Eric deals damage, quite a lot of damage, but he's very, very squishy. So having Olaf and Eric together is a good combo, and Balog is sort of in the middle of them, so it makes sense to have him alone. Another thing that I realized in this early on in the game, 30 seconds in, is that we already have people soaking bot, so there's no point for me to soak bottom lane. I can soak top lane only because, you know, people are already bottom lane soaking. So I would rather help Sonya out here, and we would get quite a good wave clear together, because she's really good against minions, and so are the Vikings. So why not? Besides, we're up against a Tyrael. Now this would be very difficult if I was all alone. If Sonya wasn't here, this would be quite nasty. It would be really difficult. Say we were 3 lanes and I had 1 guy up here against Tyrael, that would be quite difficult. So it's always good to have somebody with you. Well, basically what I'm doing is just soaking.
Where do you get these ideas anyway?
So basically what I'm doing is I click A on my keyboard, I press A on my keyboard, and I click somewhere around the vicinity of my Vikings, and they will simply attack any minion nearby, any minions nearby. Heroes as well, but as the Vikings I should focus on minions and getting that XP. As you can see, we have Eric and Olaf top and Balog going bot. Why? Because the Immortals are now fighting in the middle, so what people really should do now is to leave the lanes and focus on killing the immortal or defending the immortal. While they do that, focus on the objective, I can just soak the lanes. I soak bot, I soak top. No problem. That is what I do as the Vikings. Because the rest of the enemy team, they will be busy fighting the immortals or defending or attacking, whatever. Meanwhile, I can just soak the lanes while they do that. And Lily calls GG this early on. It's not the optimal thing to do because we've barely gotten started. I mean, we're even leading with an XP with a level advantage here. So why do you call GG? Now the next talent I'm going to choose is Pain Don't Hurt, and that is basically Balog's. That's basically a talent that helps Balog. That allows Balog to, which is the second Viking there. This allows Balog to heal himself every time he attacks a minion, and if he attacks a hero, he heals himself twice as much per basic attack. That is. So now, basically, Balog has an auto heal. Olaf has auto heal. So if he stands still somewhere, he has an auto heal. Eric doesn't. So Eric is the only player, only Viking that you should be really careful about, and the only Viking that tends to have to drink from a fountain. Now, as you might have seen, Olaf got ganked there. Eric almost died. They're 4 top, so this is a little bit difficult for me as the Vikings, to handle this push. I can't push them back. All I can do is kind of poke them a bit. Because I'm taking quite a lot of damage here. I'm very squishy. And I'm like really balls deep in here. I mean, I shouldn't be this aggressive. As you can see, I paid the price for it. Luckily, I can afford that. Because every time you kill a Viking, it's 50%. I mean, it's half the kill. So it's 0.5. Similar to how Murky is 0.25. One Viking's death counts as half a death in regards of a regular hero. I hope I didn't make that confusing. So I can go back to soaking now. People seem to be getting back in their places. And we get to choose a talent, Balog the Fierce. I'll explain all the talents later on. As you can see, maybe you've noticed this, that the Vikings don't have any abilities. I can't press W, I can't press Q or E or R or anything right now. And it's because I'm building them sort of to focus on having passive abilities rather than to have abilities I can press. Because the Vikings aren't as any other specialists. I mean, they're not like Gazlo or Sylvanas or any other specialist, really. They're quite special and different, similar to how Abathur is. As you can see, I'm getting a little bit of lag there, but that's no problem. I see that the immortals are spawning, so I send Balog to bot and allow Eric and Olaf to soak. This is basically how early game works for the Vikings. You soak lanes. That's all you do. You do not get into team fights. You do not go for camps. You just soak. Because it's important to get to level 10 before the enemy team does. It's really important. I started to notice there that Olaf could easily get killed. It's really difficult sometimes to switch between all 3 of them. Especially if you're soaking all 3 lanes. People ask me sometimes, what's it like to control 3 characters? And I'm like, yeah, it's really difficult at times because you have to kind of babysit them all. You have to make sure that one doesn't get below 50% of health and one doesn't die, another one is safe, and that someone is soaking, that they're all doing their job at the same time. You have to take care of them, which is really difficult. It can be a real pain in the ass. By the way, you're gonna have to excuse my voice. I'm a little bit under the weather. But I was so excited to get this video out that I had to record myself, even though I'm a bit sick. Apologies. Also, getting regen globes is very important because it boosts my health regeneration permanently. So Olaf gets health regen much faster when he stands still because I've picked up so many regen globes. Also, as you can see here, my mount is not really a mount, it's Zed, which is a way for me to sprint. As you can see, the cooldown of it is 30 seconds, so it's not like any other mount. And it's a great escape. It's a good way to escape a battle, like I just did with Tyrael there. Now, as you can see, we've reached level 10 before the enemy team, which means we have our heroics. And you can see now that I have an R there. I can press R for my heroic, just as any other hero. And basically what my heroic is, the one that I chose, it's called the Longboat Raid. The Longboat Raid is basically a boat where the Vikings are invulnerable, but the boat isn't, so it can still take damage. And what the boat does is that it basically attacks an enemy for, I think, 25 damage per second. And you can also press Q to use a mortar shell to attack the enemy. It's a great way to control a crowd. It's a great way to kind of escape as well, and it's a good way to push the enemy. So you can use it in multiple instances, in different kinds of scenarios. It's really useful. As you can see, as I said, we're level 10 now, which means that I group up the Vikings. We're after level 11 even, but we're past level 10. So grouping up the Vikings now is a wise choice because they do a lot of damage together now. As you can see now, I used my ultimate to get rid of Tyrael, which worked. Like I said, it can be used as a way to escape, as a way to control the crowd, and as a way to push. What I did there was basically use it to save myself, but I also managed to push with it a little bit. So it's a very useful heroic. And you shouldn't really underestimate the Vikings if you're playing against them, because up until level 10, yeah, they're vulnerable. You can do a lot of damage to them. They're a bit annoying, but you can kill them easily if you want to. But past level 10, oh boy, you ought to be careful. You ought to be careful. Because they're not really weak anymore. They can do some serious damage after level 10, so be careful for when you want to go against the Vikings after level 10. Just because you know, they're squishy when they're alone doesn't mean they're squishy when they're together past level 10. So as you can see, I can solo camps as the Vikings. Yep, you can. If you allow Balog and Olaf to tank, mostly, I mean, firstly you should allow Olaf to tank because he can. And Balog can tank better than Eric. So let those two Vikings tank and do the damage as well. As you can see here, Tyrael kind of overextended. I'm going to choose the talent really quickly. I'm going to choose Jump so I can escape Tyrael's death, the thing that he does when he dies. He attacks people and when he's dead, he can pretty much blow them up. So what W is it's an escape. It's a very, very valuable escape. I need to be really careful here. It's a very, very valuable escape. It basically allows Vikings to jump, which makes me hop out of stuns, roots, whatever.
Repent before my wrath, demon.
As you can see, the only remaining Viking here is Olaf, the Captain America, the fat Captain America. And as you can see, when the Vikings are dead, they get a flag. For each Viking that is dead, they get a flag. Green one is for Balog, the red one is for Eric, and the blue one will be for Olaf. That basically means that you can rally the Vikings to go there when they're dead. So you can set up rally points for the Vikings when they're dead. As you can see, this was a great moment to use the longboat because I can really do some serious damage. Killed Tyrande with it, managed to drive them away from our Immortal. Almost got Leoric there, but I'm gonna let him go and focus on Tyrael instead. And my mount, or Zed, it's called Go Go Go, by the way. It's very useful when you want to chase enemies or escape. So you can use it for multiple things as well. That's the thing about the Vikings, that they're very, very dynamic. Very dynamic. So now I decided to, why not attack their Immortal while we can. They're missing one hero, so we can really do some serious damage to them while they come back from their death. We're also one level above them, thanks to the XP contribution that the Vikings deliver. Here we're trying to chase off Leoric. Worked. Seems like our Asmonad is going to die. But we got a nice trade kill there, Tyrande. Of course, trade kills are better for the opposite team when we're a level ahead of them. But no problem, we got their hammer too, and we're probably going to get their Leoric. Maybe. Nope, we're going to let him go. Alright. We got Gazlo though, that's fun. That's alright. We were meeting a really difficult composition here. I mean, seriously, the team we're meeting are really difficult. There as you can see, I let Olaf rest a bit because he was a little bit low on health and he needs to regenerate. I really didn't have to chase Tyrael here because Lily made it in anyway, barely. But it's always nice to kind of be right behind them and try to drive them off. I think we're gonna get him anyway. Yeah, we will. Very nice. Now the next talent that I'm gonna choose here is gonna be a talent called 64 kilobyte marathon, which allows my Vikings to run much faster. I think it's 30 or 60%. I can't remember what it was. As you can see, they run a lot faster. This is great for chasing enemies and for escaping, because what that ability does also is that it allows you to get out of roots, and I think it allows you to get out of stuns as well. So it's a great escape. It's a really good way to escape a fight, but it's also really good for chasing down enemies or getting to a place fast. Like I said before, the Vikings are quite dynamic. So as you can see, we're 2 levels ahead of them. I think I was kind of hesitating here. Should I go top or should I go bot? But nah, let's go bot instead and help the team, because let the Immortal push top all alone. That was a ballsy move for me to do that. I sacrificed Eric to get their Gazlo, however, which is a really good thing for me to do, because Eric is not nearly as dangerous as Gazlo can be, so it was worth it, you know? It was really worth it. As you can see, there's a flag wherever I click, and that's because that's Eric's rally point. So I think I'm gonna go for the siege camp here. However, it's a little bit. I think I can take a siege camp with 2 Vikings. I haven't tried it, but it becomes a lot easier with Eric because he deals so much damage together with the Vikings. Balog basically becomes invincible when he deals when he's with the Vikings, because he just gets this he gets HP from just basic attacks, so it's really useful to have that ability, or that talent rather. And also I think that the Vikings could solo a boss. I haven't done it myself, but I've seen other Vikings do it. So it's very possible. You just have to go with a different build than the build I've gone with. I don't think I can solo a boss with this build. I have a problem getting bruiser camps on other maps with the Vikings sometimes, because there's 4 bruisers normally. Here we have these impalers instead, so it's kind of different. So the Immortals spawn in about 20 seconds. Like I said, I don't need to soak anymore. We have a steady level advantage. We have an XP lead, and we're doing quite well actually now. Kind of almost turned the game around. I mean, Lily said GG 2.5 minutes in, and it seems like we're actually doing quite well here. As you can see, I used my W a little bit too late there. But like I said, I have a great escape called the Mount. Well, Z, go. And that's how I could get out of a combat situation really quickly. It's just press the Z key or Z key, whatever you want to say, and you can escape really quickly. Leoric joins us. Hammer joins us. And that's a good. As you saw there, I used my W to avoid getting stunned there by the Immortal. That was a really ballsy move of me. I should not have chased Hammer like that. That was really stupid. As you can see, All my 3 Vikings are dead. They have a regular timer just like anybody. There is an ability where you can, I think it's level 20, where you can shorten their death timer by 50%, but that's really not necessary. Also, their other heroic, if you don't pick the longboat raid, the other heroic is called Play Again, I believe, and that's where you kind of launch them back into the battle, back into the game. Sort of like a Play Again function, basically. Removes their death timers and instantly put them back into the game. As you can see, we're getting back into the game now, one by one. Yeah, here we are. I think it's important that we defend this time, but it really doesn't matter because their Immortal's shield is so... It's going to be so tiny, as you can see. And we're probably going to knock it down rather fast. However, I kind of forgot about the Immortal at this point and started chasing kills instead. Which is not wrong, I mean... But we have to be aware that their Immortal is pushing, but no one is going to defend it. I was so caught in the moment here on killing Leoric that I forgot about it. And I think he's gonna die. I think we get him. Yep, we got him. Now the talent that I'm gonna choose this time is called, well, it's called Ragnarok and Roll. And basically what that talent does is that when I activate my longbow, I get to fire at 2 enemies twice as fast. So I deal more damage to 2 enemies. Also, my Q has 100% range, so it reaches much further. So basically, after level 20, the Vikings become a real pain in the ass if you go with this build. And I kind of made a mistake there. I should have pressed W to escape that stun by the Immortal, but I totally forgot about it, so that got little Eric killed, which is a problem at this point in the game, especially because we're both level 20, and the Vikings do a lot of damage together. But, you know, as long as you have 2 Vikings, you're okay. But if you only have 1 Viking left, that can be quite problematic. Unless it's Balog, because Balog is well-rounded. Balog can do good for himself. But if you're stuck with Olaf, who's really slow, Olaf is really slow, he can get killed really easily, and Eric is very squishy but super fast. So, you know, it's bittersweet. As you can see, earlier I set a rally point for Eric in spawn so he doesn't run off and die somewhere without me being aware of it. Trying to gather the Vikings up to defend bottom lane here. As you can see, we've broken out into a big battle. And we managed to get Tyrande at least. And Eric died again. As you can see, he's very squishy. I should have used my R faster there. But as you can see, I'm firing upon 2 enemies there, which is what my level 20 does. It just gets them, 2 of them. And it's a great way to drive them off, as you can see, as I just did. And the Immortals are in the middle, so we should focus on the objective, which we're doing, which is good. The good thing about the Vikings is that they're expendable. You can easily get away with having one of them killed. I mean, say for example, they get Eric and we get Tyrande, it's still an advantage for us because, I mean, we got a hero that is so much more versatile and stronger than just 1 Viking, while 2 of the Vikings are still around and their Tyrande is not, so we get the advantage of that. So don't be afraid to trade kill 1 Viking for another hero, because that's actually really good for you, for your team. Kind of like a sacrifice. We managed to get their Immortal down. managed to dodge Leoric's heroic there and kill him,
Brings order to
which is always satisfying. Satisfying. Sorry. So what I do now is I push bot while everybody else is helping up top with the immortal. Trying to get a little bit of siege there. This is a great moment for us to push because we can. No problem. We can definitely push. We have our immortal still up. The entire team is up. Their Leoric is dead. We just got their Gazlowe. That's great. Leoric came back. Tyrael got Sonya, but we got a great trade kill there with Tyrael. This is also a great way to push core. Activate your longboat raid when you're by the core because you just bombard the enemies, and then you use your Q to just hit the core. As you can see, we're pulling it down rather fast. And as you can see, Melee was proved wrong, and the core is going down slowly, steadily. I got pretty sweaty here because shit, we just need one hit, and Asmodon saves the day. That was a good game indeed. Good game indeed. So let's take a look at the stats here. As you can see, I had 16 takedowns, 3 deaths, 79,000 siege damage, 51,000 hero damage, but I had the most XP contribution in the entire game with 20k, almost 21. And that's basically what the Lost Vikings are made for. They're made for getting that XP contribution, gaining that XP lead, and gaining that level advantage. So that's what you get when you soak lanes. As you can see, I didn't have too many deaths, but that's because the deaths are counted in halves. So when one Viking dies, that's 0.5. So that's a half a death. Let's take a look at talents. This is a very, very personal build that I like to build myself, where my number one ability is Spy Games, because it makes me invisible, or cloaked, or stealthed, after 3 seconds of just standing still. Also gives me a sight radius that is increased by 75%, which is good because sometimes you're idle with the Vikings, and when you're idle with Eric, he simply becomes stealthed and gains extra vision. So why not pick that as a first talent, because it's quite useful when they're just standing still somewhere in a lane and you really don't know what to do with them. Sometimes that happens when you control 3 characters, and it can get quite difficult to keep an eye on them all. Pain Don't Hurt is the level 4 ability, which allows Balog, which is the second Viking, the green guy, to heal. For 20% of the damage dealt, healing is doubled against heroes. So every time he has a basic attack and splash damage, he gets healed. So basically, Balog has an auto heal for himself, similar to how Olaf gets an auto heal. I also picked for level 7 Balog the Fierce, trying to buff Balog here. We increase his attack speed by 8%, stacking up to 5 times. After 3 seconds of not attacking, these stacks will rapidly decay. So it's all about soaking really fast. Keeping an eye on Balog is important because he's one of the fastest of the Vikings. And of course Eric is as well. Olaf is the slowest one of them. On level 10, we pick Longboat Rage, which is this unstoppable longboat that fires nearby enemies for 25 damage per second and can fire a mortar that deals 50 damage in an area. The boat has increased health for each Viking inside, but if the boat is destroyed by enemies, all Vikings are stunned for 1.5 seconds. It lasts for 15 seconds. This is a very powerful ultimate or heroic that you can use for crowd control, escaping, for pushing, for killing, for cleaning. It's very, very useful. Also, it requires that all surviving Vikings are nearby. So if one Viking has Hearthstoned and 2 Vikings are in battle, they can't use the longboat. But if one Viking is dead and 2 Vikings are still alive in battle next to each other, they can use the longboat. It is a very useful heroic. I've never taken the other one, so I really can't tell you much about the other heroic, which is called Play Again. So this is my absolute favorite one to pick because it's so very useful, especially when you get to level 20 and I'll explain that to you when we get to that talent here. So I would definitely recommend Longboat Raid because it's extremely useful in battle, but it's also very good for escaping and for crowd control and pushing. Jump, very simple, level 13. It makes all the Vikings invulnerable and able to pass over enemies for 1.5 seconds. It's basically a way to escape stuns, escape roots, escape damage, escape a battle. It's a very useful escape ability. A lot of people don't tend to pick this one, but I love it because it doesn't have that long of a cooldown, and it's a really good escape. It's a way to really leave a battle. You just have to use it wisely and do not overuse it, because sometimes you may need it, but then you notice that the cooldown, it's still not available for you because you used it at another time where you didn't really need it very much. So, be careful with this ability, this talent, sorry, because it's quite useful, but you should be very wary of how you use it. Now on level 16, we choose 64 kilobyte marathon, which allows you to gain 40% movement speed when you activate Go Go Go, which is your mount. The Vikings don't have a mount; they have their sprint. So also, this will also break the Vikings out of roots and slows. That is extremely useful. It is a great escape. It's a really good way to escape battle, to get to a place, of course, but also to chase down enemies. If you're really confident you can kill an enemy, another hero, then you can chase them down by using this, by pressing your Z key and chasing them down with this ability. I mean, you become incredibly fast, and it's kind of annoying because, say you're fighting someone and they're trying to kill you, and you use this ability to escape. I mean, you're out of the battle, and they can't really catch you because you're so fast. They can't even mount up. They don't have the time to mount up and catch you because you're already gone. I mean, it's a great way to really leave a battle safe and sound. Combining this with level 13 is a great way to leave a battle safely. So level 20, Ragnarok and Roll, is basically the longboat can fire at 2 targets at once, and the range of its mortar is increased by 100%. By this time, the longboat is almost OP. I mean, it's crazy good, because most of the times at this point you have an XP advantage, you have level advantage, you're basically owning the team if you're playing it, if you're playing a good game, of course. And Ragnarok and Roll will just be another big pain in the ass for the enemies, because all you do is chase them down, attack 2 targets at the same time. You can knock down buildings with the mortar. I mean, it's incredibly powerful. At level 20, the longboat is insane. That's the reason why I always pick longboat at level 10, because I know what comes at level 20. It's great for crowd control. I mean, it's even better for crowd control. It's even better for escaping. It's even better for killing, and it's even better for pushing. So it just becomes a stronger heroic ability at level 20. So I think that's the reason why you should pick it, because it's very useful. Now, how do you play the Vikings? Basically, if you have 3 lanes, you split them up into 3 lanes. There is a possibility where you can split them up into 2 lanes. If another teammate or multiple teammates are soaking other lanes, you can take the lanes that they're not soaking, or that you're having trouble with. For example, say you're all alone on top with Eric. Send Olaf up there to help him, and have Balog soak mid, and let the rest of the team help you out wherever they can. But when there are objectives, you should split them up into all lanes. So say you're on the Cursed Hollow, split them up into all 3 lanes when people go for the tribute. Or say you're at the Garden of Terror, all 3 lanes when people are chasing seeds. Or, the whole thing about the mines, cursed mines, you can have them in 2 lanes while everybody goes down to collect the skulls. So always soak with them. That's what the Vikings do. When you reach level 10, you don't really need to soak anymore unless you're really, really, really behind on XP. But even then, you can do a lot more damage and a lot more greatness with the Vikings bunched up. So after level 10, it's always good to keep them together, because you'll do a lot of damage and you'll be a pain in the ass for the opposite team. So how do you play with them? Say you have the Vikings on your team. First of all, if he's not splitting them up into all the lanes, he's doing it wrong, unless there are 2 lanes and he can take 1 lane for himself and the rest of the team goes the other lane, then that's fine. But if there are 3 lanes and the Vikings are bunched up, that player is not playing them correctly. They're supposed to be soaking all lanes because that's their biggest advantage. That's their best thing to do. That's what they're made for, basically. So if you're playing with them, let them soak and you go do the objectives. You go do what you need to do as a team. Kill people, kill the enemies, take camps, take watchtowers, go for the objectives, whether it's, an immortal or a shrine or the garden, the seeds or the mines, whatever. Just go for the objectives and allow the Vikings to soak the lanes. Do not bother to even tell them to not soak, because that's what they do. And if you see them attacking minions and avoiding heroes, it's because that's what they're best at. As you can see, XP contribution is their biggest thing. That's what they deliver on. That's their job. So let them do their job. Also remember that they're very, very easy to kill. They don't have a lot of HP, especially when they're split up. They're very, very vulnerable. So if one of them dies, it's not the entire world. Alright? It's not the entire world. It's half a kill. It counts as half a kill. So it's not very bad if one of them dies. If 2 of them dies, that counts as 1 death, If all 3 of them dies, that's 1.5 death. So be wary that they're very, very easy to kill, so maybe they need protection here and there, but just let them do their thing, which is soaking lanes. So say you're playing against them. You definitely need to take these guys into consideration, that they are very, very, very hard to play against, especially if you play against a player that can play them correctly. Because what they do is that they soak the lanes, but you're another teammate, so you have to focus on an objective, which means that you're going to leave the Vikings to roam the lanes all alone and soak the lanes while you go do the objective. And if you try to chase them down and kill them, good for you, but it's still not good enough, because you have to kill 2 of them or all 3 of them in order for it to count as something good, But they have short timer in the early game, and they can just come back quickly. They run really fast. They're incredibly annoying to play against, especially if you're playing against somebody who's playing them correctly. If you play against another player playing Lost Vikings and they're bunched up, then they're playing them wrong, and you can really kill them very easily. And you don't even need to bother, because they're not a threat anymore. They're not soaking lanes. They're not a threat. But after level 10, you should be really careful. Do not challenge them thinking you can kill 1 of them or 2 of them or 3 of them, because a good player that plays the Lost Vikings correctly can really gank you and kill you and be a pain in the ass for you. Trust me. That's basically how you play against them. Their hard counter is Abathur. That's their hard counter, in my opinion, because he can be a real pain to them. But other than that, playing against the Vikings can be annoying. You have to set up a good strategy in order to slow them down from soaking lanes. Alright, everybody. I guess that's all about the Vikings that you need to know. This is how you play them. This is how they're played. This is what they do, what they're good at, and this is a good build, in my opinion. It brings a lot of good to the team, and that's what I think. If you know how to play the Vikings right, which you hopefully can learn, it's not that difficult, really. They are the hardest to play, in my opinion, but I still think that anybody can learn them, of course. Yeah, well, that's about it. Thanks for watching, and if you thought this guide was good, like, share, subscribe, and hope to see you in the Nexus.